believe that the mayor and vice president have flags. If everybody could please stand to the pledge. Hello. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Very good. Mrs. Higgins, would you please do a roll call?
Certainly. Mayor Dietman.
Here.
President Percival.
Here.
Vice President Bull.
Here.
Councilman Capabianco.
Here.
Councilman Long.
Here.
Councilman Swigert.
Here.
Councilman Sidlow.
Here.
Councilwoman Guy.
Here.
Chief Murray.
Here.
Is Mr. Powers here tonight?
He should be. I don't know if he's logged on or not.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
still working.
Solicitor Wills. And there's Mr. Pacenti and Lisa Catania. I didn't hear Jay. Jay's on though, right?
Yes.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Super. Everybody's heard me read the minutes of the previous meeting. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to pass last month's minutes.
Second it.
Any questions on the motion?
Yes, I do have something that I believe needs correcting. At the bottom of page 3, it says that President Percival read into the record a post that appeared on a Facebook page that is maintained by a council member. The person posted that since they are blocked from the borough's Facebook page, they are unaware of COVID-19 restrictions, and she hoped if she got the virus, she could give it to Shirley. I would like to read what was actually said, and it says, "See, things like this I should be able to see, but unfortunately I am blocked. Hopefully I don't get the virus and spread it to Shirley by mistake because I had no idea the state of the emergency." So I would like that to be updated to be correct.
My understanding of what was, and I don't have it verbatim here,
I do.
then I would suggest that you submit that in writing to Mrs. Higgins if you have it in writing, because nobody else.
I will do that. I can send her the screenshot.
Any other questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? So moved. Mrs. Higgins, do you have any call to citizens regarding just the agenda?
I do. Let me get here. Okay, the first, that's not regarding the, okay, let's see here. Okay, regarding proposed ordinance 562. This is from a resident, Beth Hale. And her question is, I am curious what this ordinance means in layman's terms as far as West Garrison goes. I didn't understand this, and I live on this street. Thanks, Beth Hale.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe Councilman Swaggart has already spoken to her and explained the situation, but I'm not sure.
Correct.
Yeah, I have
Okay.
spoken to Ms. Hale, so.
Perfect. Okay, I have another one here. This one is from Kelly Anderson. Excuse me. And it's regarding the proposed ordinance pertaining to Blossom Avenue. This is Kelly Anderson, and I live at 66 East Shelton Road in Parkside. I have been a resident and active member in the community for over 18 years. I am emailing as a plea to council to reconsider the ordinances pertaining to Blossom Avenue or to table these ordinances until further discussions can be made. I ask that you please present this plea to council members prior to the May monthly meeting, as well as present at the monthly meeting. I want to first thank council for placing in the ordinance that parking permits will be allotted as I have off-street parking. I believe the ordinance reads that there is no parking on Blossom unless you have a permit. I would like the council to reconsider this ordinance or table it until further discussions can be made for the following reasons. There already is a limited parking in the area. By eliminating, you cause higher animosity among neighbors and with the borough. Tension is already high due to the uncertain circumstances everyone is dealing with. She states she has elderly parents and her mother has very limited mobility as well as her sister. By not allowing parking to those without permits would force them to park further away, thus prohibiting them to visit her. Having limited parking may depreciate the value of her home. Lastly, she believes that the ordinance is being proposed because of parents parking when picking up or dropping off at school. There is already signs prohibiting parking during school hours. However, parents still park there. There are just a couple reasons I ask for you to reconsider this ordinance or table it so it can be discussed further. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Okay, I have another one, and this is regarding ordinance 562 as well, and this is from a gentleman named Jim Moran. He lives at 106 East Shelton. Residents with homes along Blossom Avenue between East Shelton Road and East Elbon may apply for parking permits at a cost of $15 per permit. I did a quick walk around on Sunday morning and found only 2 parking spots open on the 100 block of East Elbon and East Shelton. Since there is limited surrounding spots, I think the homeowner should be given free parking permits. This way it wouldn't pose parking legally for them as making some other neighbor park illegally. Making the street one-way during school drop-off and pickup times might alleviate the congestion. And I do have other correspondence, but it does not relate to anything that is on the agenda.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Rob Powers has joined the conversation.
Good.
Okay. Hi, Rob.
Unmute, Rob.
If that's the only thing you have for the agenda items, then let's move on to correspondence.
Okay. Okay, here is for the month of April, money brought into the borough. Licenses and inspections, $5,488.50. From the Recreation Department, a return from the Easter funds, $825.50. Recorder of Deeds, $1,396.74. From the Police Department for reports and reimbursements from new hires, $580. From a grant from Vesta Cop for the Police Department, $1,000. Court Financial Services, $516.67. And an anonymous donation from a generous resident of $200. Under tax collection, tax collector Ed Fisher, $326,187.21. From the Tax Claim Bureau, $2,033.85. And from District Court, $551.04. For a total income through my office for April, not including EIT or LST tax, $338,779.51. I do have a letter from the County of Delaware. Enclosed is an amended Exhibit A to the original subrecipient agreement, which incorporates the borough's request for an increase in community development block grant funds to cover the additional equipment required to complete the lighting installation. An additional $3,750 has been allocated to the fiscal year 2019 award for an amended CDBG allocation of $119,250. Please be reminded that the borough is responsible for all project costs over this amended allocation. Please secure a copy of this letter and the enclosed as your subrecipient agreement. So that was good news.
It is good news.
Okay, I got another letter. It's from Vesta Cop. We are pleased to inform you that the Vesta Cop Foundation has approved a grant of $1,000 to your police department. It is the intention of the Vestacop grant team that these funds be used for the purchase of front and rear cages for a park patrol vehicle as outlined in your application. By endorsing the enclosed check for $1,000, the Parkside Borough Police Department agrees to use the funds in the manner specified, and those funds have been deposited. I have another letter from another resident, has an issue. This is from Darlene Weaver. On Monday, May 11th at 8:51 p.m., I had received a notification on my phone that showed an individual looked to be tampering with the signs on my fence. This individual came from the alley behind my house and was wearing a hat or a visor covering their face. Since I now live alone, this was alarming to me, and I felt the need to share this suspicious occurrence to the residents of Parkside to be aware and alert. This individual also seemed to know about the camera and appeared to have avoided showing their face on purpose. I thank you for your time and consideration in reading my concern.
And I understand that she has filed with the police.
She did. And I have one last letter, and this is from Elizabeth Seltzer, and she lives on East Shelton Road, and it reads, I was shocked to return to my home backing up to the woodlot a few weeks ago and find lighting had been put there with, as far as I know, no input from borough residents, particularly those backing up to the park. If that happened, I missed it completely. The bedroom in my house now feels like a nighttime work site on I-95. The lights are so bright it makes the house and yard uncomfortable to use. While previously the lights were turned out at 11:30, these lights are screamingly bright till after 6 a.m. I just finished listening to Radio Times on NPR devoted to the ecology, both global and local. One of the speakers, Doug Tallamy, is a well-published author and local professor at the University of Delaware, and his last words on the show were about outdoor lighting, in which he said he had recently seen new research on the damage of outdoor lighting to all insects and wildlife, and it was much worse than he thought. Many necessary insects are completely wiped out by this lighting, and he listed 8 ways outdoor lighting is killing massive amounts of wildlife. With the damage our ecosystems are crumbling under now, it seems particularly poorly thought out that Parkside would introduce this new threat to our only piece of park. The show can be heard through the link below, so you can in fact check and get more information. The specific lighting comments are the last words, but there are other references in both episodes of this show demonstrate how important it is for all of us to address these issues as soon as possible and as broadly as we can. Now is the time to start the new consciousness as we build ourselves back from this current COVID crisis. She asked that the lighting please be put on a timer to turn off before midnight. And I believe Doug spoke with her.
Yes, and having spent almost $120,000 on the Woodlands project, I do believe that she is the only one complaining, but I would like Councilman Long to step in. He did a complete survey of that area at nighttime. Eric, can you please address that?
Sure, absolutely. I went over there a couple weeks ago, shortly after she sent the letter, probably about 9:30 at night. I had Shirley on the phone. The lighting is there, it is bright, but her house sits, I'm going to say approximately 100 feet away from the light, and there's no way that it looks like an I-95 workplace and going into her yard. I don't know if she has shades or drapes, that's not my concern, or it's not, neither is our concern, but I don't feel that the lighting is that offensive to her as she makes it out to be. I think she was more surprised that it was there and she wasn't contacted about this. I back up to the park, and I have to say it's great to have all the lighting and security. I'm up till sometimes 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I can actually see people walking at 1 o'clock in the morning from my deck. So it's good to see that the lighting is there. I would hate to see that council changes the timing on the lights for something like this. I feel security is more important than a mosquito or a tick at this point. She also, this is a certain resident that a couple months ago had an issue with the walkway in the park that she felt that council needed to fix or do something about it because she felt it was too close to her property. And this resident also, for her property, I would think she would really want the security because she doesn't have much of a fence backing up to her, going into her parking, her yard or her house. So I just feel that I think it's just, she's just more upset that she wasn't contacted, that this was going to be done.
Well, we did our legal advertisement, and there's been construction down there ongoing.
Right.
More lights means more security, and as you said, people were down there late at night.
Right. I mean, I'm not a fan of what was put there, the equipment, because part of the equipment is right behind my house, and people can see into our house from it. Like right now, it's okay because of the foliage, but I am concerned towards the end of the summer. But right now, I think the lighting is perfect. It's bright, and many of the residents on the street, they commented they do like it.
Great, great. I
So
think
thank you.
that's her concern. Thank you for doing the survey.
Sure.
Mrs. Higgins, do you have anything else under correspondence?
I do not.
Okay, then we're going to move on to the mayor's report. Mayor Dietman.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. The report for April 1st through April 30th, there were 5 crimes reported, the most prevalent 3 thefts, 1 fraud, and 1 ordinance violation. There were 48 calls for service, most relevant, domestics 6, suspicious persons 2, and there were 8 medical emergencies. There was 1 automobile accident. Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, our calls for service have decreased significantly. Although these are trying times for us at the county and the community level, we seem to be doing very well. Hopefully this is over soon rather than later, and we can get back to normal. Chief, I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Mayor.
I was asking the chief if he wanted to make any comments.
No, the report speaks for itself. I have noticed that in the past several weeks, we have seen an uptick in calls, but it's not a major uptick. I think it's just the natural progression of things.
I know traffic on the avenue is increasing.
Yes,
Mhm.
it is.
Yeah.
Did I hear is emergency management coordinator on the program here?
Yeah.
Okay, I spoke with him this morning, and I will let him go ahead and talk about what we discussed. Other than that, I have nothing else at this point. I would like to reserve some time in the future, Madam President, if I could.
Most definitely. Does anybody have any questions for the mayor? Hi, Ron. Does anybody have any questions for the mayor? Moving on to the president's report, Linda did mention that we received a generous donation of $200 from an anonymous source. I again would like to thank that person for being so generous. And I was quite surprised that we did get additional funding for the woodlot. The money is well appreciated, and I thank our engineer, Ms. Catania, for all the hard work she has done on this woodlot project. And she surprised me this week. I had not noticed that we made the initial cut for the 2020 CDBG funding. What that entails is pedestrian improvements. So we are looking at $93,600, and that will be our next phase to put in 4 pedestrian street lights and, of course, concrete restoration. I don't know, we're going to do junction boxes and maybe a bench for planners. But we made the first cut, and I'm very, very excited. And this will be on Edgemont Avenue from East Parkway to Beechwood. So again, I wholeheartedly thank our engineer for that, and it was a surprise for me. I'd like to remind everybody that the heavy trash pickup on Fridays limited to 3 items per household. There's been some discussion on social media sites about why trash was not picked up. Tuesday, I did speak to a resident this evening, addressed his concerns. Delaware County Solid Waste canceled Tuesday's pickup. It was not the vendor. The vendor has been very generous with the amount of throwing a caveat with heavy trash on Fridays. And I would again like to remind people, I noticed the mattresses in Box Springs not covered, so they were not picked up. One quick note, primary election date is June 20th, and I've been assured that the workers will take necessary precautions, and we all need to practice social distancing and wearing a protective mask. We have reiterated numerous times about no spending. I would just like to bring up the fact that for this month alone, we have spent, or up to today, I guess, we have spent $31,896.13 on trash. So those prices are not going to decrease. We have to expect our insurances coming due this summer. So we will again reiterate that there is a no spending policy. And I have nothing else unless somebody has a question on that. Moving on then, I will, we've noted that junior council person has been excused. We'll go into police, public safety, and code. Councilman Capabianco.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I would like to say hi to Doug's little baby there on screen.
Aww.
I can't see him.
Hi. Aww.
Oh, there he is.
Looks like your other kids. Very cute.
Okay.
Proud
For the police report, our vehicles went under their general maintenance for the month. On the ordinances, they're at 140 rentals, 139 are in compliance. The one landlord is from Atlanta, Georgia. He refuses to do anything about his property on Edgemont Avenue, so I am issuing him citations every Monday of the week, which I can do every 24 hours, but the borough will be lenient somehow. But well, I'll see him in court. We have an issue with two neighbors, as most of us know, on East Shelton. It's an ongoing feud, and we have a parking issue over there, which is still under investigation. But however, as code enforcement, I was directed to do my job and start issuing citations. Again, I give it every 24 hours. However, I'm doing it every Monday. That's all I have for code enforcement. Can I move on to Public Works?
Please.
Public Works, we had an issue with the flags along the avenue. A lot of them were torn and frayed. And to get somebody out there to put up the rest of the flags along the avenue would take manpower and a bucket truck, because we don't have the resources we had in the last few years. My thing was with that would be, as we budgeted last year for a new flags for a lamppost, I'm not going to spend that money, because we're in uncertain times to spend money on I say it's not necessary things like flags. We all know we're in a pandemic. Residents are going to have to understand that these are not normal times. So I'm going to lay back on not putting any flags up this year because of the money issue. It's the same thing with the speed bumps. The borough doesn't have the same resources as we did years past, but it's still under discussion how to put these down, because we need the manpower, we need the tools, and we need the equipment. Again, I do not want to spend any money that's not necessary. I'd rather save it for our police department, our employees, and our professional staff. I can't stress this enough, and I concur with the president that we cannot be spending money at this time. We do not know where we're at. We're uncharted waters. I just don't understand how people are not understanding this, but so be it. Other than that, I can report general progress.
And you're absolutely right. And having looked at the treasurer's report, we are already down in revenue. We have no concept of what the earned income tax, building permits, court issues, anything that's going to come in the next quarter. So I personally, I understand. And I thank you for considering that. Also keep in mind that the bed of the dump truck, which is our only truck for plowing and salt, I'm hoping it gets through coming winter, or we're going to have to get a piece of steel and lay it down.
Yep.
Instead of changing the bed out.
Yes.
So, I mean, you know, you can talk to your committee about that, but it's food for thought. Does anybody have any questions for Councilman Capabianco concerning police or public safety? Moving on to ordinances, Councilman Schlager.
Last month, I gave council a chance to look at ordinance 561. This is the noise ordinance. Does anybody have anything they want to discuss regarding
Yes,
561?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay. Going through it, if you're looking at section 2, where you come down to sound and noise, I would like to know how we are going to prove what the unreasonable noise is by the police officer.
I'm having a tough time hearing you, Shirley. Somebody's got a lot of background noise on
Yes.
their end.
Somebody does.
Joe, you have to turn it down.
Oh,
There we go.
that was it. Thank you, Linda. On section 2, sound and noise, I would like to know how we would prove that this is unreasonable vibration or noise. Is it through the police officer's opinion or a code officer's opinion? How would we prove that?
Shirley, if I could address
Go ahead.
that.
Go ahead,
Again,
Mr. Wilson.
the courts will look for some objective standard anytime there's a noise ordinance. And certainly the opinion and the facts rendered by the police officer or the code enforcement officer are critically important. If there are other indicia of reliability, maybe there was additional witnesses, you know, and additional people that had complained. Again, that's something a court will take into consideration. With all these noise ordinances as well, there is a degree of subjectivity that the courts understands. But again, they do look for some objective criteria. But again, it must be reasonable. There must be some factual basis to sustain, you know, a conviction. But I think what we proposed here, I think is pretty solid. I think it'll hold up in the courts. And I think we certainly need to address the noise situation here in the borough and tighten up the screws just a little. And I think this ordinance comports with that.
Thank you, Jay. If you go into section B1, it starts with radios, television sets, phonographs. Does lawnmower equipment need to be added to that? Because if somebody starts to cut their grass at 6:30 in the morning?
We could add that, Shirley. Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably an issue that may come up during the summer months. Obviously, we have the lawn cutting season now. And if somebody tries to, you know, obviously begin cutting their grass prior to 7 a.m., you know, that's an issue. People may do that for a whole host of reasons. Either they have to go to work or sometimes
Just got home from work.
heat, humidity, and they want to try to get it done early. But at the same time, it's disturbing the neighbor. So I can certainly add the lawn mowing operation in there under B1.
Can you also add in snow blowers?
I didn't think of that.
Because we have the one certain resident that with the parking issue in East Shelton is that we had the same issue with him cutting his grass at 6 in the morning and blowing the snow at 6 in the morning.
Don't we already have an ordinance that you can't work before 8 a.m.? That would fall under that.
I think it's
Okay.
maybe 7 a.m. or 8 a.m.
It's 7 a.m.
Okay.
If you move on to, again, section B, subsection, let's see, subsection B3, or subsection 3, where it says street sales, does that mean that nobody can have a garage sale or a lawn sale?
From my understanding, there's only allowed 3 of them a year.
Well, no, it's not saying that they can't have it. They can't be standing out there saying, "Hey, come on in." It's the shouting or the yelling of advertising that they're having something.
Okay.
Yeah,
If you look at number 4,
And the times are reversed on that. It says 7 to 10 instead of 10 to 7.
that's correct. I was just going to say. If you look at number 4, it says animals and birds. I guess I cannot do any hawking off my front porch or hooting. Do we want to eliminate birds? I don't know. I don't know you can control Mother Nature.
No, but if it's a domestic bird, whether it's a parrot or something else, Shirley, you're responsible for that. I would leave that in there, but because I've seen issues like that with parrots especially.
Okay, so we're going to define that as a domestic bird.
Yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I had. Anybody else want to throw some questions on concerning ordinance 561?
I have a question about the fine. It seems like the fine is $300 for the first offense, $400, and then $500 for second and third offenses. How was that number determined? It seems really high, especially for something that, as was just mentioned a moment ago, could be considered a subjective issue. It seems more something like it should be a lower fine, and then potentially the increases get higher if there's a potential problem. But starting with a lower number to say, hey, look, knock it off. We don't want to have this problem again, as opposed to starting with a real high enforcement amount.
My understanding of our code is that the fines start at $300 and go up.
That
On
is,
all fines, regardless of the fine?
I would confirm with the solicitor that they start at 300 and go up.
yes, but the court also understand the judge ultimately has discretion to lower the amount of the fine based on the facts and circumstances. If there are peculiar circumstances surrounding this particular incident, ultimately the judge, as the final arbitrator, has ultimate decision and discretion to lower the fine. So that's always a possibility. And the code enforcement officer and the police officer who may be involved, if it's a cooperating defendant, can at least recommend to the judge that they consider lowering the fine.
And this is a true case. I did that a few times in court already,
Yeah.
where it went down to $75.
Any other
But
questions?
we can't lower the fine now. It had because the borough, a different borough ordinance says 300 is the minimum fine.
I don't know if it necessarily says that, but we generally have uniformity in our borough code. And we generally start with, $300, which we find is a reasonable deterrent. Again, some of these property maintenance fines can go up to $1,000 per violation.
Right.
But we generally start in our code, it's $300. And I think that's reasonable, given the fact that, again, we're paying a police officer perhaps overtime to go to court, or bring the code enforcement officer in, or if there's appeal up to Delaware County Court of Common Pleas, you bring me in as the solicitor. So I don't think $300 as a starting point is overtly too high. And again, still leaves the judge ultimate discretion to lower it if he sees circumstances warrant.
Any other questions on this ordinance for Councilman Schwager? Councilman, what's your pleasure on this?
Well, I think if we want to make the changes to add for the lawn mowing, the snow blowing, and Jay, do you recommend specifically stating domestic birds?
Yeah, I can put that in there. I'll make that change as well. So they're the two changes I could make, and I could probably have them available for Borough Council as early as tomorrow morning. So that's just really, a click of a mouse. So I can make those changes tomorrow morning and email out those to Ordinance 561. So if it would be the pleasure of Borough Council to advertise this ordinance based on those two changes, I think that would be appropriate.
And I'd like to make a motion to advertise Ordinance 561 with the modifications discussed for lawn mowing, snow blowing, and domestic bird.
Do I have a second on that motion? I will ask.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor to advertise this ordinance for adoption in June? Aye.
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 All those opposed? All right. Councilman, your next thing?
Next thing is Ordinance 562. Just kind to what I discussed with Ms. Hale and her to kind of put this in layman's terms as she requested. The changes for the ordinance are strictly bringing what's out on the street onto the paper, changing street names. And for example, her issue with West Garrison, she was worried about one way. She read that we weren't going to have one way from West Garrison down to Mount Vernon. Well, that's because in Parkside, it's not Mount Vernon, it's Tom Sweeney. So we had to change that. And that's what a lot of the people that I've talked to over the last month had issues with, was that they didn't understand we have to get rid of what's there and then replace. They just saw a lot of what we were getting rid of. The only thing that was new that is not just a replace, and that was the Section 7, the parking on Blossom Road, talking about the parking permits. That was an addition. It's not changing the parking, but it's just an inclusion of the parking permits. That was the only thing that is new. That was not previously on the traffic and vehicle code.
On the permits, so are you saying the permits are going to be taken away?
No, the permits are there.
Because it was my understanding and I sent an email out to council that years ago that we weren't going to have permit parking in Parkside.
It was told to me that was part of the ordinance, or was supposed to be part of the ordinance when the changes were made to the parking in Blossom. That's why I included that.
And so we're charging each resident $15?
Based on the way it's written, the only people that I believe have the permits are those that have a home that borders on Blossom between Elbon and Shelton. So we're talking 4 homes.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I don't think we should have permit parking or something like that. That's going to cause problems later on down the road. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know how other people feel on
Are
this.
you saying-
It doesn't specify, is that $15 one time or is that per year?
It's usually, it was one time. It does not specify in this, and I have to agree with Councilman Long. I think what this is going to open up is the possibility of having parking permits throughout the borough, such as, I don't know.
I would like it on my block. I would like to have permit parking on East Shelton.
I personally would like one here, and I have said this before, people who bring home their work trucks or taking up residential parking. You know, if you don't have a long driveway, if you have a long driveway and you don't want to juggle cars, then you're parking them on the street. I think there's an issue with that parking issue.
Right. I mean, we have a one car driveway, and one time we had a police officer come up to my house, coming to knock up. He wanted me to move my car because I was blocking my driveway and said that was against the ordinance. And I said, well, then ticket me. Because if I can't park in front of my house, I'm going to park in front of my driveway. And I have a problem when I'm being told that I have to move my car when I'm paying. If I go to sell my house, I've even had people parking on my street, parking on the curb. Now, when I sell my house, I'm going to have to pay for that curb to be replaced. But I just think permit parking, you start with one street, it's only going to be a matter before it goes throughout the rest of the town.
Madam President?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes. I've been listening to the conversations about this particular section. It's embedded in the ordinance. I've read the ordinance several times. I have a concern over section 7 at 176-10-1. And it is my intention, if this ordinance is passed tonight, that in the next regular scheduled meeting, I will veto the section as amended. I also will reserve the right to veto the entire ordinance.
It is your right.
Thank you.
I do have concerns about the way this is written. If you start at section 1, it says that the entitled one-way streets is hereby partially rescinded. I think that's what the problem on West Garrison was at the upper block. It reads like it's going to be rescinded to make it a two-way street. But if you look at the section number 2, it contradicts section number 1. And further down, section 3, again, it's only parking on one side. I too agree that if we're going to start parking permits through in one section, we're going to be bombarded with people from throughout the community, west side, east side, that's going to want one parking permit for the street. Put me down for one of those.
Put me down.
And Eric,
I mean, I have no issues with taking that out. Like I said, it was brought to me by another council member that it was supposed to be part of a previous ordinance. So.
Well, again, if you look at the very first section, it says is hereby partially rescinded.
Right, because
you're changing the terminology or the name of the street. But if somebody wants to go up the wrong way on a one-way street of Garrison, up the upper block of West Garrison, it's going to say, well, this is partially rescinded. I'm allowed to make this a street.
But the thing is, if you look, you're rescinding between Arlington Avenue and Mount Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
Then down below, you're now making it a one-way street between Arlington Avenue and Tom Sweeney.
Then maybe we should delete one of those, delete section 1.
Well, no, the first section is deleting what's currently in the ordinance. That's how the ordinance is written, as a one way between Arlington Avenue and Mount Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to delete what is current. Again, I suggested the changes. This is the how Mr. Wills wrote it up.
Okay.
So the section 1 is taking out what is currently in the ordinance, because that's how it is written in the ordinance.
Okay.
Section 2 is the terminology that's going back. So it's not that we're getting rid of a one-way street. It's just we're saying that it's from Arlington to Tom Sweeney, not Arlington to Mount Vernon.
Okay.
Well stated, Perry. That's exactly right.
Does anybody?
That makes more sense. Thank you, Perry.
Does anybody have any questions on this ordinance 562?
I don't have any questions, Madam President, but from all the other questions, I think perhaps we should table it at least until we're all meeting in one place and have it printed out in front of us.
Vice President, I totally agree. I will entertain a motion to table ordinance number 562.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second to table this?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor to table ordinance 562 until we all can get together as a normal meeting? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So moved. Councilman Schwager, do you have anything else for ordinances and resolutions?
No, nothing else for ordinances and resolutions at this time.
We'll move on to license and inspections. Councilman Long?
Good evening, President. I have for the past month, building permits for residential is 13, plumbing for residential 3, electrical residential 1. Use and occupancy, we had 4 inspections were completed and 1 re-inspection was completed. And 0 street opening permits were issued.
Super. Thank you. Any questions for Councilman Long? Moving on to emergency management, Mr. Powers, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to run through the emergency management, the fire marshal, and the health officer report all in one.
Feel free.
Mayor Tom Dietman and myself spoke at length this morning about possibly moving forward to lift the emergency declaration for the COVID-19, but we felt at this time that we should keep it in effect until the state loosens up the red to the yellow, which could happen on June 4th. So we're going to keep the declaration in place for another month, see where we are as far as our governor allowing us to move red to yellow. Parkside has 27 confirmed cases as of today. And that's it for the emergency management part of it. Nothing's changed as far as meetings with the state and local officials. So we're still in this together.
Yeah, we are.
Report 2801 Edgemont Avenue, the old church. All fire suppression plans have now been approved and they will be in with the permit to start work on the fire suppression part of the church. Health officer report. Several complaints have been made against Dunkin' Donuts as far as employees not wearing gloves and face masks. The complaints were founded and addressed with the owners, and a written warning was issued last week. It may be out of my jurisdiction to shut them down, but they were threatened that their business would be closed if they didn't conform. I have made the state police aware of the violations there, so it's at the state police hands level. And Mr. Salty has been operating within the borough limits without a permit. I stopped him and asked for the permit, and he could not produce one. I allowed him to serve the customers at the truck at that point in time, and he will not return until he receives a permit or inspection of the truck. That's all I have for all 3 reports.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Powers? Moving on to the finance report, Vice President Bull.
Thank you, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen. I have read and would like to make the recommendation that we accept the treasurer's report.
I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 All those opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Madam President. I have read and would like to make the motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Any questions on the motion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? So moved.
Madam President, I would like to thank everyone for holding the line on the finances. These are definitely interesting times that we are in. I hate the term that everybody's using, the new normal. I do think this will pass, just like the flu, just like everything else. That's my personal opinion. But I do want to applaud everyone for taking this seriously and making sure we don't have any frivolous spending, as we do not know what the financial resources that we're going to have from the untold amount of people that are actually being furloughed, laid off, or having changes in their financial well-being. So that was just my little bit. And so I do want to thank everyone. It does say the fitness stations. I will go with the status for the fitness stations as general progress. And I do know that I have to follow up with the engineer Catania about some signage. And I'm hoping that as we go from red to yellow to green, that we do actually have a very thorough and enjoyable kickoff for the Ford Fitness Trail in the woodlot. And with that, I will report general progress.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Vice President Poole? Moving on to recreation, Councilman Schwager.
First thing I'm going to start with is, unfortunately, it's been decided that we're going to not have our standard 4th of July activities this year, because even if we are still in the governor's yellow stage, which is a good likelihood a month from now, we're still looking at groups of no more than 25. And if anybody's been to the bike parade and stuff, we definitely have a lot more than 25 people.
Wow.
So to limit that to, hey, you're the first 25 residents that showed up and then turn everybody else away, I just wouldn't be right. So we're just going to kind of look forward and see where we're at and what we can try to do for Community Day as our next big event in September. So that's as far as the big borough plans and activities go. Smaller activity plans. I've been contacted by a bunch of parents of Sun Valley seniors, and we are currently in the works with the assistance of the mayor, the chief, President Percival, to organize a parade, a car parade for the graduating seniors of Sun Valley that attended Parkside Elementary. So that includes going into Brookhaven a little bit, and we're still trying to figure out the route. That's the big thing right now. But we are going to meet at Our Lady of Charity between 3 and 3:30, with the parade starting at 3:30, going around the area that covers Parkside Elementary. And hopefully we will be done before the virtual graduation for the seniors at 6. So we don't think it should take more than 2 hours.
Do you want to give the date?
That is Tuesday, June 9th.
Right.
Tuesday, June 9th. If you could meet between 3 and 3:30, come with your car decorated. Just to congratulate the seniors, throw a sign on there, way to go class of 2020. If there's a particular student or two you want to give a shout out to, do that. Balloons, chalk paint on the side of your windows. Just something.
Get that out to the, maybe on social media or something to let some of the parents know they might want to participate.
Yeah, we're getting there. I just, it will be sent out. I know Superintendent Steinhoff has included the Pendelco communications person in on this. It's going to be out with emails going from Principal Sassy at the high school. So, and then we'll make sure it gets out on social media as well.
Super. Is that bird in your yard, or is it getting into my house?
I don't know.
Does anybody have any questions for Councilman Schwager concerning?
Yeah, I do. President Percival had informed me on this parade, and I will be there.
Thank you, Councilman Capabianco.
Anybody else have any questions concerning for Councilman Schwager?
Other than that, I'll just report general progress.
Super. Thank you. Moving on to recycling MS4, Mrs. Guy.
Yes, thank you. I would like to report that we had 8.44 tons of recycling the last month, so looks like we're back up again. And other than that, I'll report general progress.
Have you, I will ask again this month, have you had an opportunity to contact Verizon or Comcast either through email or maybe an official letter concerning getting our own channel? I know this has been something I continually ask, and I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm working on that. I call Comcast. They can't tell me who I'm supposed to call. So it's hard to send an email when you can't even figure out who you're supposed to send it to. So I'm going to have to work through some of the other borough councils, see who else has their own local access channel.
Maybe I would suggest that either Comcast or Verizon, you start Googling who the government reps are for our area. That might give you a start point for an email or a mailing
Yeah,
address.
I have to tell you, I've Googled everything you can think of, and it's pretty dead endy. But if you have any suggestions, otherwise I'm going to go through another one of the councils.
Super. Anybody have any questions for Mrs. Guy on her report? Moving on to the tax collector's report, Mrs. Higgins, did Mr. Fisher leave us anything? And Mrs. Higgins, you're muted.
Unmute. How's that?
That works.
Am I good?
You're good.
Okay. The treasurer has received a total of $811,376.53 to date. There was a total of $22,542.38 in revenue deposits from April 13th to May 14th. And that is it.
Any questions for Mrs. Higgins on the tax collector's report? Moving on to our engineer's report, Ms. Catania.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple things that I wanted to mention based on the conversations we had previously. Number one, the wattage on the lights at the woodlot is equivalent to what was there. The difference is that the color of the lights is much brighter. These are LED lights, so the color is much whiter, so it looks brighter than it typically would look. But the actual wattage is the same as what we had there before. The additional monies, unfortunately, and I'll be the first to say that I've made a mistake. We had 12 lights in the contract. There are actually 13 out there. Why we have an unlucky number of lights out there, but we do. Thank you that OHCD was gracious enough to get the additional funds together so that we could put that additional light in. It's not an additional light. We're going to be able to replace that last light. I did want to thank OHCD for that. The other part, the 2020 is actually in a 30-day comment period. This is the 2020 Community Development Block Grant. It is for 4 lights, the wiring from the existing lights to the other end of the borough. Again, working with Megan Swider and Phil Welsh from OHCD, because that area is still an eligible area because of the proximity to the Chester border, we were able to get funding. There'll be a 30-day comment period, and then on that after that 30 days, County Council will award the projects. So if anybody has anything good to say, send a comment in to the county.
Our fingers crossed.
Keep our fingers crossed, but typically if you're on that list, you're not removed from that list.
Right.
I also forwarded to council a copy of a cost estimate. Now, don't anyone get worried. It's for $160,000. We are not suggesting that a road program, milling and paving, be done for $160,000. These are various choices of roadways that we feel are in need of some, as I call it, tender loving care. We do find them in a deteriorated condition. So what we've done for the most part is you'll see that it's per block. They're typically, if the borough is interested in doing a road program this year, which I heard earlier, the council was, this is out of the liquid fuels fund and your county aid. So this is not out of your general fund monies. This is monies that people that are paying gas taxes goes to the state gives it to PennDOT then gives it out to the municipalities. I might suggest to you, if council is interested in doing a road program this year, that we get an authorization to advertise the bid. I'm not saying put it in now, but I'd like to work through this list now we have gotten prices for paving where last year we were paying $120 to $140 a ton. We have gotten tonnage prices of $78 a ton.
Wow.
So we have this estimated at $90 a ton based on what we knew at the beginning of the year. And because the numbers are coming in so well, it would be prudent for us to put it out as soon as we can, then wait and then pay the higher prices because the petroleum numbers have gone up. And really, this is all petroleum based, so your paving number is down right now.
That's a phenomenal change. Phenomenal.
Yeah, it is. It was a real shock. Some of our bigger municipalities are getting like $64 a ton, but they're doing $500,000 road programs. So it's a positive thing for the municipality. Again, you can pick and choose what roads you like to do as council. All of these are what we rate them from 1 to 5, 1 being you need to do something now. These are all in the 1 and 2 categories. So other than that, I can just report general progress, or if anyone has any questions, I can answer those questions.
Would council like to discuss the roads that are on Miss Catania's street list for repaving?
Yeah, I said about a few months ago about getting Cisco and Shelton, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think we all agree.
Which Shelton are you talking about, Nick?
East Shelton.
East Shelton?
Correct?
No, that's West Shelton. West Shelton.
And did we want to finish East Shelton? Wasn't there only a
East Shelton's already done.
We finished that.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else want to throw a suggestion in for the street list that Ms. Catania gave us today?
So looking at the list, which ones are you looking at, Nick?
West Shelton.
Which parts? Because based on the estimates that she has here, you can't do all of West Shelton.
From Edgemont to, that would be Arlington. On West Shelton.
Let me interject and ask our treasurer what our liquid fuel for paving alone allotment is this year. Joe, do you have an idea?
The allotment, I think, is 57 grand, but you have close to 100 to do roads. If you wanted to do a big program, you have close to 100. And then I got enough to cover the street lighting and the street lighting repairs. You're talking about 100 grand.
Okay, so if we do something around 90,000, that should still give us a $10,000 cushion for next year when the fuel prices go up.
Correct.
Okay.
I think what you need to be aware of too is out of your liquid fuels comes your salt and any of your snow plowing. So I think that you might be a little bit more comfortable in the $70,000 range if you want to look there, just because we don't know what the weather is going to be in that winter period. You won't get your liquid fuels money until, I think, Joe, they're giving it like March, April time frame now.
Yeah, again, a little earlier now.
Yeah, it used to be April, May, but they've been pushing it up to March and April. So you're going to go through that winter period where you're going to need money for your snow plowing and any of your salt.
Does everybody have their list in front of them? Or
I do not.
you do not?
I don't need them now. So if you want to have some conversation.
If West Shelton is an issue, I mean, because I was just looking at the totals, quickly doing the math in my head, if we have 100,000, it would probably take 75,000 based on the numbers I think Ms. Catania gave us to do West Shelton from Edgemont all the way down to the Borough line.
Yes, I'm looking at the same thing, and you're absolutely right. If we just do from beginning to end of West Shelton, we're looking at about 75,000.
I'm not talking about that. I said from Edgemont to Norfolk.
Okay, then that's about 25,000.
Right, and then Cisco, and then Crozier Street from Gray down to Beechwood.
Beechwood to West Rowan.
Beechwood to Gray.
Beechwood to Gray.
Yes.
Okay. So we want to take it Crozier Street all the way through then.
If you want to do that, then do that. But I'm saying between Beechwood and Gray.
Okay.
We'd have to figure out, because there's no numbers taking it down to Gray.
Right.
Well, something the engineer needs to probably do then. Because that's the streets I projected back in January.
Okay. Lisa, how about if we do that? If we get it to, we'll authorize the engineer to bid, and we're looking at West Shelton from Arlington, no, Edgemont to Norfolk, and then Crozier Street from West Roland to West Shelton and Beechwood to West to Gray Street.
Say that again. I'm sorry. You're talking West Shelton from Edgemont to Norfolk,
Right.
Crozier Street from Beechwood to Gray, and the third one was what?
That's it. Let's just.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there were three.
No, Nick, you were saying Crozier from Shelton all the way down to Gray, the whole way.
No.
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood.
It's Crozier from Gray to Beechwood. So we got Crozier from Gray to Beechwood.
Mhm.
We got West Shelton from Edgemont to Norfolk. And that should leave us enough cushion for what Lisa had mentioned before about, snow plow and salt and other things.
Well, that's about $50,000. So that's a normal road program for you.
All right. If everybody's in agreement with those roads, about 50,000-ish, that'll save us money for the winter that we're sure we're going to get snowed under with.
Yeah.
The way the year's going. I'll entertain a motion to authorize the engineer to bid on the 2020 road program.
I'll make that motion.
Second it.
I'm hearing a lot of background again.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So moved.
Thank you, and
Lisa.
I'll answer any questions that anyone has if you.
Yeah, so the lights at the woodlot, what was the old light fixture and what is the new light fixture that was installed? Was it just a replacement of the lamp or did you replace the whole fixture?
It was the entire fixture.
Okay. So what was the old fixture and what is the new fixture?
I'd have to get that for you, Scott. I don't have that information immediately available. I designed that I designed the first time about 20 years ago, and I designed the second time over a year ago. So I'll send you that information over.
Okay. And is the runtime the same or is it different? Because the correspondence seemed to indicate that the light was on all night long as opposed to part of the night.
I don't know that. It was on a timer previously. I don't know what times it was set because it was set by the borough. But I will tell you that I put a note on here because I don't know whether the timer has been reset. I don't know what council wants to do with that, but Lenai Electric, no, excuse me, Lenai didn't do that project. Mena Electric was the contractor who did that work. And I don't know whether or not they've reset any timer. If council wants it on a timer, let us know and we'll take care of that. But I know that there's we have one person who doesn't like it and the rest of the area, the residents in that area like that it's on. I don't know that it needs to be on till 6. And I have to look again, but I thought it was on versus a timer. They were, no, they weren't. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a different project. I'm thinking of the ones on Edgemont Avenue that are not on a timer. They're on light meters. So,
yeah, I don't think it makes sense to have them on all night long.
As a resident that backs up to the park, I'm going to have to disagree with you. It's a huge security for us. It is completely dark. These lights are tremendously bright, meaning not for what the resident said, but meaning from the previous lighting to this lighting, you can see the people walking at night. Like I said, I'm up to sometimes 2 in the morning. I work night shift. I can see people, residents, I shouldn't say they're not residents, people from other borough walking through the park at 2 o'clock in the morning with these lights.
Let me
safer with these lights on.
I agree with Scott, or with Eric, because you have just this nice weather coming in now. And we don't want it to be a kids hangout. We don't, and we have heard that there's been 4-wheelers.
Yes.
I think the more
This
light
past
we
weekend.
have, yep,
We
the
had
more
6
light we have.
6 4-wheelers this weekend.
6?
6.
Oh my God.
The more light we have back there, it's more of a deterrent.
And granted, that is during the daytime.
Call 911.
But I just feel for this resident, for one resident's complaint against the neighbors that I'm talking to, they're appreciative of all these lights. So, I mean, I just can't see why we're going to risk security for lighting. And I'm sorry, but I'm not about to save a mosquito for a light.
I agree. Does anybody else?
Mr. Candy, do you have a projection as to how much additional energy or how much additional cost the lighting would be running all night long as opposed to the previous lights, which were on a timer?
Well, I think the difference is significant. Number one, because you're looking at, I believe it was a sodium halide, and now you have, or a metal halide, and now you have an LED. So there's going to be significant savings between the two. From a dollar and cents standpoint, I don't know how many hours they were on. If somebody can give me that, we can certainly figure it out. But usually when you're looking at this kind of lighting, you're looking at a 60% decrease in the cost. LEDs aren't very expensive to
I can't believe we're putting a price on security.
I can't either. I'm sitting here shaking my head that I think that the security back there, not just for our residents, but for the people.
I mean, Scott, I understand where you're coming from. I truly appreciate where you're coming from, but you don't back up onto this park. There are so many issues back there, and with the lighting, it has helped tremendously. That I just think, I mean, I will have all the residents along East Cheltenham come to the next council meeting, or I'll have them sit in my living room at the next Zoom meeting, and we'll protest this. I can't believe we're going to put the cost of security.
There is no cost for security of those using that or those backing up to that speed, that would line. And I think we're nickel-and diming this topic. So I would appreciate if we move on to the solicitor's report. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. I want to begin by touching base on the status of the Delaware County court system. Obviously, it affects both the code enforcement department as well as our police department. As Borough Council probably knows, the court system has been closed to the public with limited exceptions since March 19th. And the judicial emergency was scheduled to end on Monday, June the 1st. Well, as of today, the president judge of the Delaware County Courts, Judge Kevin Kelly, just extended the judicial emergency by an additional 60 days, meaning until July the 31st. And the courts will be closed to the public for limited exceptions. So that's disappointing to me and a lot of other practitioners. I fully expected in early June, with the governor changing the status of Delaware County from red to orange, that the courts would open up. And they may open up eventually, but a court order again just came down today extending the judicial emergency in Delaware County and effectively closing the courts for the most part until July 31st of this year. So just so everybody is aware of that as far as court scheduling and things of that nature. Second item on my agenda concerned 204 East Avon Road. This is a property that had multiple municipal liens. We had filed against the property both for nuisance abatement liens as well as trash fee outstanding liens. I'm pleased to advise, working with the Delaware County Sheriff's Office, as a result of a judicial sale to this property, we did in fact receive payment on all those outstanding municipal liens. So we will be filing the appropriate lien satisfactions with the Delaware County Court, and we will be able to make payment from, or to, I should say, one of our vendors, ADU Services, that provides property maintenance services for various properties throughout the borough. Third issue concerned Chester Water Authority. Again, this is an issue that is heating up this summer during the pandemic. Again, the dispute concerns between the Chester Water Authority and the city of Chester as to the ownership of certain authority assets. There is presently a total of 16 court cases that are being litigated over the Chester Water Authority and between the city of Chester, both in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court, and the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas. Again, the issue being who owns authority assets. The city of Chester is obviously taking the position that they own exclusively all the assets of the Chester Water Authority, and that they have exclusive authority if they see fit to sell that authority to a private non-for-profit or private nonprofit or profit company, I should say. Obviously, the Chester Water Authority is taking a different position and is taking the position that those assets are owned by multiple rate users throughout both Delaware and Chester County. So this continues to heat up, and I'll keep Borough Council apprised as the summer goes along. Third issue concerned 2607 Arlington Avenue. This is a property that, again, we continue to file nuisance abatement liens every other week. I believe they're on a regular grass cutting service through our vendor ADU Services. And again, this is a neglected property. Other issue concerned our B&L trash contract. Apparently, some residents have been inquiring as to what that contract may say, what it doesn't say. Again, the contract itself, it is a public document. If somebody wants to access that contract, it's my recommendation we go through the typical protocols and procedures, that being that the property owner, the citizen, obviously file a Pennsylvania right to know law request, and from there we will follow the law and issue the necessary contract documents if so requested. Other than that, I can report general progress.
What happened to Shirley?
Shirley?
I don't know what happened.
Looks like Shirley dropped off.
Shirley's gone. Doug, you have to take
Doug,
over.
you got to take over.
Thank you, Solicitor Wills. I appreciate that. I know other townships have had a resolution in support of Chester Water Authority. Is anybody have any interest in a resolution that would support?
We already did, Doug.
We
It's
did.
already done.
My
Yeah,
apologies.
I did speak with the Borough Secretary, and she was able to refresh my recollection, and lo and behold, probably about a year or two ago, we had adopted a resolution in support of maintaining the status quo with the Chester Water Authority. So I think that's in the best interest of the ratepayers here in Parkside.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. Moving along, we have the call to citizens. I believe that was covered at the beginning. Madam Secretary, were there any other correspondence?
Nope. Nothing.
All right. Does anyone have any unfinished business? Hearing none, seeing none, we will move along. Anyone have any new business?
Yes, I would like to bring something to our attention. So, the borough always seems to be looking for real good opportunities to save money and to get grants and to get low-cost opportunities. And I have been hearing radio ad after radio ad after radio ad for commercial customers that there are deep discounts from Pico for LED light bulbs. And as you all know, the borough building uses a significant number of fluorescent light bulbs. The light bulbs that we currently have use 32 watts of energy, and there's usually 4 in every fixture. And the equivalent replacement fixed LED light bulb would use 12 watts. So we'd be saving for each light bulb used from 32 watts to 12 watts. And I work professionally in energy efficiency, and in the past I have done analysis of buildings to see how much money could be saved if lighting replacements were made. And I have created a spreadsheet which indicates how much money we could save if we were to change out the lighting in the borough building. If you don't mind, I'd like to share my screen and share the spreadsheet with you.
Scott, at this time, I don't know how many people in council have had a chance to review that. But right now, as the financial person here, I don't know if we're going to be making decisions to make capital upgrades to a building that's essentially furloughed at this point in time. There's very limited use taking place right now. And I believe from your documents that Pico will actually extend many of these discounts, and they actually, in many cases, incentivize them more over time as opposed to less.
What's his name? Jimmy G?
Doug, Shirley is trying to log back on.
How do I help her?
Doug, Shirley is trying to log back on. We have her on the phone. She got disconnected.
And just
Shirley,
put
you
some
there?
input. Hey, Doug, Vice President.
Yes, sir.
Just to put my input on it, as Chairman of Public Works, if you recall back in January, I had announced to do the conversion of LED. I don't know why our Councilman Sidlow here disrespected the chairperson and the 2 other high-ranking members that was not authorized to do this. Now, I read over his sheet, and he's totally wrong about how many light bulbs are in each fixture. Since I'm the one who put the ballast in for the last 3 years, there's only 2 light bulbs in each fixture. So that number is automatically wrong. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other rooms that Councilman Sidlow could not get into. And they are, let's see, 2, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 fixtures altogether in that room. So that's all flawed too. And as my research does, he says he wants to put these plug and play light bulbs in. Well, everybody has seen my emails. If you use a ballast for these LEDs, you're still drawing a minuscule amount of voltage. Now, if you really want to save money, you will bypass that and go right to LED. So that's my input on that.
Sure.
Sorry, I was not.
Hold on. Are you back, Shirley?
The ballast does use a certain wattage, but you have that wattage with the current fluorescence, and you would have that wattage if you did the plug-and-play LEDs.
Yeah, but my point is, if you bypassed it, if you really want to save money, you would bypass that ballast and go right to LED.
Sure.
Right.
Well, I am advocating going to LED right now. We can do the ballast work as well, but the plug-and-play lamps is easier to install. We wouldn't need an electrician that we would have to pay. I also want to say that the amount of money that I'm proposing that we spend on purchasing new light bulbs and disposing of the light bulbs would be paid back within the remaining budget year. Basically, we would be spending approximately $500 in June, and then we would receive the savings over the next few months, and we would be at a break-even point by the time we got to the end of the year. So there would be no additional spending this year, and the savings per year is, it's $1,400 per year in savings. And I'm sorry, that's the first year savings in first 12 months. That wouldn't be the first calendar year because we're halfway through the calendar year.
Let me interject. I'm back online. I got knocked off the line, I guess, but let me interject because I've looked over your emails, and I know everybody's gone through a lot of these emails, but I'm looking at your spreadsheet. Your spreadsheet alone is totally off. Number one, the police station does not have lights on 24/7, 7 days a week. 52.
Okay, so
now, let me finish.
Okay.
You have them listed as 4 light fixtures. There's only 2. I can go through every single line item on your spreadsheet, and it is incorrect. Let me say that you've doubled the amount of time that you have lights on in the building, every single section. I'm not going to bore everybody with the research I've done, but you have not segregated the light, turning a light on, okay, from the heating, the air conditioning, the computers, the servers. Our lights, if you have Linda in the bathroom an hour a day, 5 days a week. If she's in the bathroom, an hour a day, 5 days a week, I'm going to buy her Imodium. So what I'm saying is your cost factor is incorrect. You are not saving
Right.
the amount of money that you claim you are. That's number one.
Yeah, but I also don't recommend changing the lights out in the bathroom. And I also do agree with you that the predicted time of use is not necessarily accurate, and I'm willing to spend time discussing. I'm willing to spend time during this meeting discussing what is our predicted usage. Also, if you would like a utility bill disaggregation, which is to figure out the cost of end use, how much for heating, how much for air conditioning, how much for lighting, how much for plug loads, I can do that calculation if I'm provided access to the last 12 months of the utility bills. So a utility bill disaggregation can be done very easily.
Let me say this, and we've all gone back and forth. Your figures are flawed. Your spreadsheet that I'm looking at, for those who can see this, it's the colored spreadsheet. I took his calculations, Mr. Sidlow's calculations. I looked at not only the hours per day, the days per week, the weeks, the number of fixtures, okay? I went straight down, not even counting that the rooms that were missed, the file room, the police locker room, the chief's room, interview room, BCOs. There is virtually no savings. And you have stated, and I will quote you because I have somewhere here. I have your quotes that you feel that you ran on the campaign last year with the issue of saving energy front and center. I was elected based on that platform. I make no apologies for taking the initiative. There are unknown factors in this spreadsheet. Well, not only are there unknown factors, but the whole spreadsheet, as I had said to you at the beginning, is flawed. Your data is flawed. And if you look through the second and third page of your spreadsheet, your cost efficiency drops down to a minute amount of cost savings.
Which is why I do not
We have people.
recommend replacing every light bulb in the borough.
And you're looking at buying light bulbs when we may not be able to pay our police at the end of the year.
I do not recommend changing every light bulb in the building. I've been very conservative with the fixtures that I am recommending, and only in the highest use areas. If you'd like, I can share this spreadsheet and we can discuss whether the time of use that I have suggested is in fact consistent with our actual use.
And I said that to you from the beginning, going line by line with your spreadsheet, with your table of savings, your data is flawed. And Vice President Bull has already said that the fluorescent bulbs that are existing in the building are high efficiency bulbs, therefore are saving our taxpayers money.
So the bulbs that were installed 20 years ago were the top technology when the borough building was built in 2004. However, they use 32 watts of energy, and the equivalent replacement uses 12 watts of energy. That's where the savings comes in.
When they're on.
Chime in as to when some of our bulbs have been replaced. I believe we started several years ago.
Yeah. Them bulbs are not 20 years old. I've been putting them in since 2016.
Right.
I've been replacing the balances.
Periodically changed over.
Yeah.
Well,
wouldn't you love the opportunity to not replace light bulbs anymore? Because if we do this, we won't have to replace light bulbs for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, but remember we talked about the balances, and if the balances go bad, I'm going to be doing it anyway.
Right. This is not to be a political issue. This is a nonpartisan council.
I don't really see how this is a political issue. I'm making a recommendation where we can save money by investing money we're going to spend anyway.
Well,
I'm making a financial recommendation. I'm not making a political recommendation.
Well, when you come out and say, I ran on a campaign last year with the issues of saving energy front and center. I was elected.
Well, I believe it was a response to a query that you made about where is this coming from? Why is this coming up all of a sudden? And I would just made the point that it's not coming up all of a sudden. This is something that
you politically ran on.
Yeah, and I make no apologies for that. I think it was a good issue to run on. I think there's a lot of money to be saved in reducing the energy bills of the borough of Parkside. The borough building uses a lot of energy. The street lights are all due for replacement.
The street lights are not paid for out of general fund for the 5th or 6th time. And as far as saving energy, I believe that we are on a no spending policy when our residents are going to food banks. If you look at the Delaware County Sheriff's Department listing of foreclosures, we're having people lose their homes and worried about paying for food for their families. And you're concerned about light bulbs with a no.
Sure, I understand that, but we're going to spend more money with the existing light bulbs than we would spend with new light bulbs. So it's financial savings. It's not cost.
Do you realize that some of these have, as Councilman Capabianco has stated, as Vice President Bull has stated, that these bulbs are already changed over. A lot of them are changed over.
Well, no, they were changed from 32 watt fluorescence to 32 watt fluorescence. They were not changed to new LED light bulbs.
Your calculation,
Would you like me to share the spreadsheet? I can put it on the screen.
I have it right here. Your calculation.
Okay, but
I went line by line, as I said, or the data is flawed, and when you get back to page 2 and 3, your savings projected are totally off.
Which is why I don't recommend the savings of the lower light bulbs. We have I don't have the number here. I'm recommending we only change 188 light bulbs, and there are something like 287 in the whole building. The council room, it does not make sense to change those light bulbs because they're only on 15 times a year for a couple of hours, 3 hours. The bathroom, as you said, does not make sense for changing because it's not on a sufficient amount of time. I know I put in 1 hour. That's definitely more than it's being used. And again, the cost savings are not there for that room. The conference room, the server room, the back hallway, I don't know if those lights are ever turned on or not.
Let me suggest, since you obviously,
and we've had this conversation. You did not follow the chain of command. We are, I think, at the point, if you wish to make a motion to follow up on this, then I would suggest you do that because we have other business to take care of this evening.
Okay. Well, I move that we spend approximately $600 to replace 188 fluorescent tubes in the borough, and that money will be paid for before the end of the year in reduced energy savings. So there's no additional cost to the borough. It's a break-even sign. It's a break-even cost in year 1, meaning the rest of this calendar year, and it's a savings of up to $20,000 over the course of 10 years.
I will not, I will hold my opinion till questions on the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Under questions of the motion, I will tell you that your figures are incorrect, that there is no savings. I don't know where you're getting your figures, but if anybody looks at the second and third page of this spreadsheet, they're totally off, as well as the first one, and you cannot project the savings when you cannot segregate all the other electrical uses in that building. Does anybody have any other? Does anybody have any
Madam
other
President.
on the motion?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, Nick.
I just want to reiterate, I think a lot of this would have been smoother if Councilman Sidlow had listened to me back in January 2020 when I suggested to make that conversion. But he wanted and did this on himself without authorization from the chairman right here and the 2 ranking members. So I hope when everybody's looking at this, the residents of Parkside know exactly what's going on with disrespecting the members of council.
It was backdoor.
Okay, well,
yes,
I have
let me just add, if it's done again by Mr. or Councilman Sidlow, I would ask him to be sanctioned if he goes over our heads one more time.
All right, we're dealing with questions on the specific motion. Does anybody else have a question on this specific motion?
The receipt, Madam President, the receipt that I have, or the quote that I have, it says $2,944. At this point in time, I would table any motions that we would have that would include that type of capital outlay. The light bulbs
right.
are
Yeah. No.
off right now. They're off.
Right.
I don't know any other way to say it. The light bulbs are off, Scott. Not using hardly any energy at this point in time.
Okay.
Say again?
So there has been a more up-to-date quote been sent around as of earlier today, and that was simply.
Does anybody else have any questions on this specific motion? If not, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote to put an end to this conversation. Mrs. Higgins, you do a roll call vote.
Just for a point of clarification, the vice president made a motion to table that overrides the initial motion. So if there's a second to a motion to table, then we would initially vote on the motion to table. So there's been a motion made by the vice president.
Second.
Okay. It's been motion and second for the motion to table. So we vote on the motion to table.
I will then ask Mrs. Higgins to do a roll call vote to table Mr. Sidlow's motion.
Excuse me, Madam President.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Guy had a question on, I don't think you saw her.
I did not. I'm
So
having
you
trouble with
might
my
wanna
computer being online.
Entertain Councilman Guy's question.
Yes, Mrs. Guy, you had a question?
Oh, well, it's not about tabling, but I guess I was just curious why, if you know that the numbers are wrong, why you can't work with Scott to see if we can get these numbers right, to see what could actually happen.
Because all of his figures are flawed from the very first sheet of his spreadsheet. And if you go through the entire spreadsheet, the subject is mute because there is virtually a minute savings. So Mr. Sidlow is,
Madam President, may I say something?
yes.
There has been plans. Actually, when I ran on a, hey, let's try to save some money. Let's try to do this. Let's try to do that. Every year, incrementally, we make strides in a more efficient and more effective borough building, borough government every year. So I know we've had plans to move some of these rooms to LED in phases. It's environmentally insensitive to throw away materials that still have value.
I
That's
totally agree.
my
Totally agree.
consensus. The reason for tabling is not a personal attack on any of the other councilmen or anyone as far as that goes, council people. But the lights are off right now, and there's no reason to ram this through while we're meeting on our cell phones in our houses.
I agree with
So
that.
the sense of urgency came from the sense of urgency, and the reason I acted on this quickly, and I apologize to Nick for acting a little bit out of procedure, but PICO's additional rebate incentive expires on the 31st, which I think is Friday or Saturday. So that's why I moved a little bit quicker than I had originally planned to as I joined council. So we can reserve that rebate. We can reserve that rebate if we would like to table. I have been in communication with PICO. We can reserve the rebate and not act. We can act as late as October, or get the lights installed by as late as October. So
Do you not understand that there is a no spending policy? I don't know how much I can.
Right. I understand, but we're spending the money on electricity. We're spending the money on electricity. We would be saving. Yes, Mrs. Percival, I disagree with your opinion of my spreadsheet. I think it's 100% correct.
Can we get back to the motion to table this?
100% wrong.
Can we get back to the motion to table?
Yes. We have a motion to table this.
I second it. Roll call.
Mrs. Higgins, would you do a roll call to table this subject indefinitely?
I accept your apology.
So so you're killing it then. You're not actually going to bring it back up in the future?
Mrs. Higgins?
I would say Councilman Sidlow.
I vote no on tabling.
Councilwoman Guy.
No.
Councilman Swigert.
Is the motion to table or to table indefinitely?
Table indefinitely.
Then I'll vote no.
Councilman Long.
Yes.
Councilman Capabianco.
Yes.
Vice President Bull.
Turn your speaker on, Doug.
Doug, you're muted. You're still muted. Oh, there you go.
Yes, I would like to table this. These upgrades will be made over time.
Right.
Correct.
And President Percival.
Yes.
It's 4-3.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
I apologize, my computer went offline. Could somebody tell me where we are? Did we do call of citizens? Or did we
Yes, we're finished. All we got to do is adjourn unless somebody has another new business issue.
I'd just like to say I accept Councilman Sidlow's apology, and I think he's really remorseful about it. So, and I also want to thank our professional staff. They're doing their due diligence for Parkside. I applaud each and every one of you. And thank you, Stevie G.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody. I am hopeful that this time next month we'll all be together, whether with or without a mask. And
Yes. Can I make a motion to adjourn?
I need a second. Thank you, everyone, for being patient with my computer.